Hi guys, welcome to the K Nutri Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Aryan Fazeli. I'm also the founder of K Nutri. Today we have a really special guest, Alex Mo. He is on Instagram at the Macro Barista, and he's really blown up a big following by putting out macro-friendly recipes to your favorite Starbucks drinks. If you want to shop our supplements, feel free to check them out at www.knutri.com. Thanks for joining us on the podcast, and I hope you enjoy it. So I think a lot of people probably, they may or may not know you from Instagram. So the question I have, because I don't even really know, is how you got started with all this. I know that you work at Starbucks, but that's basically all I know.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to, if I were to go super deep with it, it goes back to like 2012 when I first started getting into exercise and fitness. And then I pretty much had some injuries. I ended up being diagnosed with hip arthritis and getting put out of the military. And so a lot of like depression, I gained a lot of weight, and it was crazy. And so after I got out of the military, something just like called me to Starbucks. I just like randomly on a whim decided to work there. After I started working there, I was kind of just like drinking all these drinks that I realized were so full of sugar. And I started kind of going back to the gym and trying to get into fitness a little bit more. And then I just started making protein shakes. And so I would just like bring in protein powder and just make whatever. And one day I decided to share it on Facebook to like this, it's like a macro, it's like a if it fits your macros group. So I shared it on there, and one person was like, hey, you should start an Instagram. So I started Instagram with like 2 followers, and then next thing I know, just like takes off.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I've seen what you've done, and for anyone, we'll tag your Instagram page. But basically, Alex creates macro-friendly recipes for Starbucks drinks. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah, that's as you can get it.
Yeah, and I noticed, we talked about this a lot on our podcast with other guests, even like cancer researchers or obesity researchers, and we found really that a lot of people struggle with weight loss because of that one small thing in their day. So whether they're having like that extra muffin at the coffee shop, or they're having a bagel that maybe is just an empty snack, or they're heading to Starbucks and they're getting a frappuccino with 600 calories in it. And I don't think people realize like how much sugar is in most drinks at Starbucks.
Yeah, and it's not just Starbucks. It's people drink their calories in a ridiculous amount, and they don't even realize. And so just being able to give people an option to cut that, to a quarter of what they were having before, and it's just like what I was trying to do also is spread the message that it's still supposed to be viewed as like a treat. It's not something there's still sugar in it. So when you're trying to go get that, it shouldn't be something like an everyday thing, but it's still something that is just a better option as opposed to 50 grams of sugar,
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I've actually tried like some of the recipes that you posted, and like they're delicious. I think they're just as delicious as anything that has that much sugar in it, except it doesn't make you feel terrible afterwards.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing. Just there's no, the whole guilt-free thing. You should never feel guilty about eating the food, but you can feel less guilty. You don't have to worry about it hitting all your calories.
Right, and it's easy for people to blame like coffee shops and places for having these options, but there's always, I think, ways around it, right? You can opt for the sugar-free pump syrup instead of having the drink as it is. And what I like about what you've done is you kind of created a movement, and there's like millions of customers going to Starbucks, across the world. So it's not like you're creating coffee recipes. You're creating something that drives home for most people. Like most people I know get a Starbucks at least once a day or once every other day.
Yeah, so when I started the page, it was like when you create a business account on Instagram, you have to like decide what you want it to be, like an entrepreneur, like a shop, or like you have to label it as something. I was like, I don't know what I should do, because I'm not really a business. I'm not selling anything. And so I labeled it as a community. I was like, I want people to just join this, follow this page, send me messages, interact with people in the comments section, and just come together to realize that we can work together to have these better alternatives and just create a better mindset.
Right, because I think that's the difference maker is it's not always like getting in the gym and doing, 2 hours of cardio. It's just picking healthier alternatives through your day and not necessarily feeling like you're deprived. Because if you can still have like that Starbucks drink, during the day or every other day or whatever, and just make sure that it's macro friendly, that's just like one small change that you can make. Because there's so many things that come with that sugar, right? Like you're not going to feel good afterwards. You're more likely to be hungry later in the day. There's so many negative things that come with an excess amount of sugar that just making that one small change, I think, is super helpful for a lot of people. And what I like again about your page is that you have like keto options. There's like I guess things that might be paleo. I'm not sure, but you have a ton of things that maybe apply to more than just an average person.
Yeah, so it's really difficult to find things that are low sugar at Starbucks when you just go for black coffee. But being like there's non-dairy options for people that have issues with dairy or just choose not to consume dairy. And then there are ways to tweak things to make it to be keto friendly. Some of them are pretty difficult to do, especially coming in as a customer who doesn't understand what it's like from the barista standpoint. And so I try to make that translatable as possible so that someone can walk in there and be like, hey, here, look at my phone, and this is what this guy has said. He works at Starbucks, so hopefully you can understand this. And I still think that they get nervous because they don't want to have a complicated order, going in there. Um, when in 90% of the time, the barista is going to be friendly and just be willing to understand and help them. So definitely hits as many markets as I can with it.
No, I think that that movement is incredible. I think there are a lot of people, on Instagram especially that are, doing things that are macro friendly. And sure, like there are diets that you can do to like lose weight. Like, we big promoters of keto, but I also am a big fan of paleo. I'm a big fan of anything really that takes out processed sugar and at least limits it in some way or another. Did you find that, you got attention from like did Starbucks ever reach out to you or were there ever any like connections that you made through that page alone?
Yeah, so at the beginning, what I tried to do was I tried to reach out to just a regional director here in Texas, and I tried to get out to him, and I told him, and it's crazy, man. I did this whole thing through SurveyMonkey where I sent it out through Instagram. I only had 50,000 followers at the time, and so I got a decent amount of feedback from it, but it was like I was trying to show Starbucks that they had customers and they could grow if they brought in like macro friendly drinks to the menu. And so I did this whole survey, got all these numbers, wrote this whole PowerPoint, and had this presentation ready for the regional director. And I kind of got like a weird feeling because when I met up with him and when we talked and everything, he just said, "Give me all your recipes." Sorry, I need to close that out. Um, he he just basically told me to give give him all of my recipes and then he'll send them up to corporate. And I was like, that seems kind of weird. And so what I did was I went and wrote a recipe book. So I pretty much just wrote all the knowledge that I had and wrote it all down and then got it copyrighted. And so I got everything copyrighted and then I got back in contact with him and I was like, basically, hey, I'm ready to meet with you again. I have all this information and it's all copyrighted now. And I was just blatant and told him, what I did. And then from there, do you know how to turn off like the messaging sound on your computer? 'Cause that's what it's doing. But yeah, so I took the pre-workout. Is Yeah, I like the effect, but I gotta be 100% real with you. I'm not a fan of fruit punch flavored. Yeah, I just don't like fruit punch flavored supplements for some reason.
Yeah, that's fair. We're working on new flavor portfolios, but unfortunately, that's the only one we have now.
Yeah,
But yeah, I know what you mean. I think we're trying to get like berry and apple, and hopefully we can get all that all next year.
but it was an excellent workout with the pre-workout.
Yeah, yeah. No, the reason I like that one so much is because I used to get really jittery with pre-workout.
Yeah,
Like when I was younger, I used to take like C4 and all those mainstream pre-workouts. And the caffeine was just too much, and the mix of beta alanine just got me like really tingly.
yeah,
So I found that like I was really jittery during my workouts, and then I was a little bit restless at night. So this one was like a little bit of a lower caffeine, less stimulant, but more just like all the other amino acids. So yeah, I was happy with this. We've had good feedback so far. So
Yeah. So we were we were talking about
yeah, so you're meeting up with
yeah. So okay. So I met up with him, and what he wanted me to do was give him all my recipes, and then I went and got everything copyrighted, and so I got everything copyrighted. Tried to get back in contact with him, and then from there on, I just never heard from him again. And that was November of 2017. Yeah, that was November of 2017. And so never heard anything back. And then I just was like, all right, cool. Like that's just a sign, that wasn't meant to be. I'll just keep pursuing other things and keep putting out content for people. And so let's see, back in June of this year, I got a message on Instagram from the senior vice president of global product innovations for Starbucks, which is like two people down from the CEO. And so he just messaged. It was so random. I didn't even know if it was a real person. So I just got this message. It was like, "Hey Alex, I'm the team leader of the R&D at Starbucks. We want to see what we can do to get you out here, or if you'd be interested to come out here." So we started talking more, and then I went out there. They flew me out for about a week. We did some workshopping with the R&D team, and the thing about it was just that it had nothing to do with health and nutrition, and all it had to do with was like creativity from what I was doing, and so that kind of bummed me out. But it was an awesome experience, and at the end of it, they did kind of an exit interview, and they was like, "So where do you see yourself fitting in here? Um, you know, what do you like about it?" And I just told them I was like, to be honest with you, I don't I don't know that I like the creativity, but I don't like the fact that at the end of the day, it's still just Starbucks is doing this. And from that point, they were like, "All right, here's your lunch, and have a safe trip back to Texas." And um, that's really all I had heard back from them, since then. And then that's really it. So I got to go out there and do that, and it was a great opportunity. But at the end of the day, it's just like it was unfortunate that it had nothing to do with the message I was trying to convey.
yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. I mean, I'm sure you're planning on getting out there and like making a direct impact and using the knowledge and the following that you built to implement that into Starbucks. Were you a little bit disappointed with kind of how it turned out?
Yeah, just because like I said, it was nothing to do with there was nothing to do with nutrition, and I actually had created this sweetener, just like a simple sweetener, that could replace what Starbucks uses because it's plant based, and there's no like sucralose or maltodextrin or anything in it. And so I tried to talk to the guy who created their sweetener, and he basically was like, "Oh yeah, we have." Kind of blew me off with that, and so the whole thing I was just like, man, so just it wasn't what I expected it to be, which it's hard to get a good experience from something when you set expectations. So maybe I shouldn't have set an expectation to do that. But like I said, I'm still thankful to get out there and see how their process works, and just know that that's not where I see myself fitting in.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate because you would think that being, this massive company that they are, and they impact like millions of lives every day, with the global shift towards healthier alternatives, low sugar, just healthier options in general, that it would be, somewhat simple for them to just make those small shifts, introduce a macro-friendly menu. I mean, basically everywhere has one now.
Which I'm like 90% sure they're going to end up doing it. Uh, it's kind of sucks that I won't be able to be a part of it. Um, but I have my own thing that I'm working to push, and they're gonna dominate the space because they're Starbucks. But the people that really have good intent behind it they're gonna see what I'll be doing, and you know stick with me.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. I've seen a lot of people disrupt industries just by giving the people what they want, and they come in at a time when there's just a demand for something better. I've seen dominance in a lot of industries by companies, um, and they don't keep up with the times, or they don't give the people what they want. And right now, people are looking to get healthier. It's just the fact, like, people are realizing now that obesity rates are on the rise, type 2 diabetes is on the rise, and the numbers are just staggering. You know, the obesity rates now in North America are just way too high. And, you know, those don't come from like empty space, they come from food places, they come from coffee shops. So those people really have to, hold themselves accountable to some degree for what they're providing, because now people are hooked, right? A lot of people, they can't really go a day without getting that, frappuccino or whatever it may be from Starbucks. And that's like, and I'm sure, obviously, that some of the drinks are 600 calories easily. And if you think about what it takes to burn 600 calories on a treadmill, it's an insane amount of work. It's like a minimum of an hour of intense work in your day, right? So I think you're absolutely right. So what are you working on now? Like, what's the future goal? What's the future vision for, helping people out?
So the future vision for me is to be able to break into the bottled beverage industry. I know that there are some other companies out there that do kind of the coffee with like they do keto type coffee, and then there's some that have like protein coffee, but nothing that I've. This is just like me, maybe like being too closed-minded, or whatever, but nothing that I've really tried from the market, because I've tried a lot, have really stuck out to me that tasted good. Um, all the macros on them are fairly good, but nothing has really had that taste that's like, oh man, I'm down to go buy this again, or I'm trying to drink this again. Same thing with like cold brew, like bottled cold brew. Um, Nothing that I've really tried has just stuck out to me. So right now, what I've done is I've opened up a macro-friendly espresso stand, essentially, because we have like some small areas for seating, but it's more of like a drive-up window to come and get a drink and then leave. Um, and so I started doing that. And right now, while I'm working on building this, my business partner, he's focusing on the shop, and I'm focusing on getting our own roast and our own basically bottled stuff going, so that I can focus on that and start pushing that while he can work on being in charge of the shop. So yeah, trying to put out stuff that is better quality than Starbucks, better tasting. Not like trying to bash Starbucks, but just give better options than they have right now.
Right. And I think there's always room for improvement. I think companies lose when they lose sight of, what they could be doing better. And then there's opportunities for people like you to disrupt that space. So it's really cool what you're doing. And you said you have a partner, right? So that's, I think, helpful in kind of managing the different areas, because I can't imagine that being an easy task, to start the coffee shop and kind of get everything going if you want to, move into the retail space. But I think it's amazing what you're doing. So where's your coffee shop now? Because I know you're based out of Texas, right?
Yeah. So right now it's in a smaller city. It's called Abilene. It's about 2 hours west of Dallas. Um, and I ended up here because of the military. So I came here. I was stationed here at the Air Force base that's here, and then I pretty much just stayed here. I bought a house and was going to just here to finish school. And so I previously had the opportunity to open up a shop out of a different gym, and then I kind of got like shafted with that. He kind of just like blew me off after I had developed this business plan for him. And so again, I was getting ready to leave Texas and move to Colorado at the end of this year. And about a month and a half ago, I was blessed with the opportunity to run into another gym owner here, um, who a both willingly offered me a position on the gym staff, and then B, he had a commercial kitchen space like kind of partitioned off the side of the building, and he was like, I want to let you use this space to start your own shop. And so that was about a month and a half ago, and so within like 2 or 3 weeks I just taken the business plan that I created before, applied it to this space, and then we launched. And so yeah, it's been an insane past like couple of 2 months.
Yeah, that's cool. Honestly, it's unbelievable to see, once passion meets hard work, that there really is no stopping anyone from accomplishing anything. And like the K Nutri, motto has always been like stay focused and be consistent. That's like on every single piece of branding you see. It's even on our nutrition bottles because I just think it's so important for like anything you're doing, right? If you're trying to start like that small business, if you're trying to break into a new space, or if you want to finish school or get healthy in the gym, like whatever it is, I think those two things really sum up like what it means to get better at something or be successful at something. And it sounds like it's exactly what you're doing with this new venture that you're taking on, because you're probably going to hear a lot of no's, but it'll be that much more worth it when you hear that one yes.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I never expected to, be in charge of whatever, be in charge of my own business or become an entrepreneur or whatever you want to call it. I was never born with that. I was expecting to get a job as a physical therapist and work for somebody and just basically be told what to do on a daily basis. And so just having like an awakening, like when I started this Instagram, that I can be in control of everything I want to do. It's just been so fulfilling, even though I'm not making millions of dollars or whatever like that. I'm still being able to provide impact for people, even on this small scale that I know is going to turn into a big scale as I continually put in the work and show people what it's really about.
Yeah, it's really cool. Honestly, what you build is not just it's not just a bunch of social media followers, because you see there are a lot of people on Instagram. There's a lot of girls that have hundreds of thousands of followers, but all they really just put out is photos of themselves, and it's really just like there's no really value to it. But then you come to your page and you're scrolling down, and there's so many things that can help so many people. And I think every single recipe that you put out kind of touches one individual person. They're like, whoa, like this is a drink that I used to get, and this is a better version of it. And now you've just helped that person across the next year cut out like kilograms of sugar. Like if you probably took up all the sugar that they're now not having over this next year and you put it like on a table, like I'm sure it would be literally a massive bags of sugar altogether. So it's not just putting out things to build followers. It's like making that impact in the community. So with your new coffee business, are you going to be taking that same macro friendly approach and like trying to implement those recipes that you've kind of come up with?
Yeah. So right now, kind of a fairly small menu. We have a couple of we have a couple of like highlight drinks, like protein blended cold brew. So I know that Starbucks has. This is what's crazy that I haven't really been able to. I haven't put it in the spotlight. It's not like I want to be like, hey guys, Starbucks stole this from me or whatever. But like 7 or 8 months ago, I made a drink on Instagram that I literally called the protein blended cold brew, and I used the old protein that Starbucks used to carry, and it was so good. And then like I don't know if you saw, like 2 months ago, Starbucks launched a protein blended cold brew, exact same thing, and the downside is that theirs was packed with sugar, it didn't taste that good, and it had 10 grams of protein. So it was really just like they tried to do. I think. I mean, who knows if they saw it or not, but it was just crazy how I made that and then it came out. Uh, right. So anyways, we're taking the same macro-friendly approach, where you can get black coffee, which obviously has zero caloric effect, and then you can get sugar-free syrups or protein-infused type drinks. And what I'm really trying to do, because I know that I'm not going to speak like too much on the artificial sweeteners, but I just know that a lot of people are against them and don't want to use them. And so that's why I created this syrup that's a plant-based syrup that I use to sweeten. Like right now, it's just a plain sweetener. So we're using NRTs, and in some of the coffees, and it just gives that, like, when it binds with the flavor, it brings out the flavor and it brings out some sweetness. Um, so taking the macro friendly approach that I've done through Instagram, but just tailoring it to be even better.
Yeah, and I think that's important because you could obviously create macro-friendly recipes that aren't good. Like you could just make black coffee and just add a bunch of things in it, but people still want like kind of like that feeling of having a treat. I know in our protein powders we use stevia leaf and monk fruit, and so we want to take that approach where like you still want to feel like you're having a chocolate milkshake when you make your protein shake, but you don't want to necessarily have all the sugar that comes with it. So I think the natural sweetener is obviously the way to go, and I think that's where the industry is headed. I'm really against sugar alcohols and really refined sweeteners, and I know they're in a lot of low carb snacks, especially things that like Atkins bars and just things like that to name a few. But really they're kind of terrible on the gut, and they make you feel sick. So they're not really better alternatives. They're claimed that they're sugar free and they're low calorie, but they're not necessarily better than having sugar, right? So, um, and one more thing that I want to talk to you about is, has this translated into now like your fitness routine? Because I know you've been, going hard with the gym as well. So does that kind of, inspire you to get into the gym and keep that message alive in your own life?
Absolutely, because I can't be putting out information and content that I'm not implementing in my personal life. And so it's just, I think that cutting out the sugar has been probably the biggest difference for me. Like I still, I'll still enjoy like a donut or some ice cream here and there, but um, cutting out as much, like you said, processed and refined sugar as possible has made the biggest difference in just how I feel every day. It's had like effect on my skin. It's had effect just in everything, and so yeah, I'm still like, even though I have like this knowledge of nutrition and exercise that I've known for years, I've never truly pushed it into my life consistently. And so over the last like 6 months or so, that's been like my focus. And then to be like honest with you, over the last like month of creating this business, it kind of fell off because I was so busy with everything. So I put that on the back burner. But getting an actual coach who's written me a program, uh, and it's just sticking to macros. It's simple, and then when you do it, it's just like motivation for yourself. When you see that you've hit your numbers for the day, or you see the results in the mirror of what your body's how it's changing. So, like I said, I can't talk all this talk on Instagram and then not come out here and perform and walk it.
Yeah, and that's really good because then it starts to, create like the identity of who you are. And I think that's again one of the biggest reasons that you got so popular is because there's so much transparency in what you did. You never put out things to try to necessarily get followers. You just put out things that people will relate to. And I think that people will find a lot of value in. I wish I lived in Texas. I could come visit your shop. If I'm ever down there, I got to come check it out. But just to sum things up, for people, let's say they enjoy Starbucks or they enjoy that coffee, like what advice would you give generally to make it a healthier option? I know you have a ton of recipes, but is there like maybe a small guideline that people can follow just to make that healthy treat a little bit, uh, that treat a little bit healthier for themselves?
Yeah, the biggest thing I can say is to stay away from lattes because lattes are all milk and just a little bit of coffee. Um, And so to try and stick with either like the iced coffees, the cold brews, or just hot coffees. And all you have to do is really add a splash of your whatever type of milk or non-dairy milk that you want to add, and then stevia or the sugar-free sweetener. Um, it's really as simple as that. To just some type of small sugar-free sweetener, a splash of whatever milk, and then stick to. I prefer cold brew. It's cold brew, but just stick to some sort of black coffee instead of a latte because, like I said, latte is all milk.
Right. All right, that's great advice, man. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on this podcast. I think your mission is unbelievable. And if anyone is in the area, just let them know, first of all, where they can find you on Instagram and also where they can check out your shop.
Yeah, absolutely. First, before I say that, man, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's good to just have like this dialogue with people of similar mindset and just flow because it's not it's kind of hard to come across that these days. So, really appreciative of that.
My pleasure, man.
Um, so if you want to find me on Instagram, it's simple. You just search at the Macro Barista. You can find me on there. And then if you're ever in Abilene, Texas, which is a slim chance you're going to be here, but if you're ever in Abilene, Texas, my shop is called Grind More Than Coffee, and it's also on Instagram as grind underscore more than coffee. So that's really the two best ways to get a hold of me.
Awesome, man. I'm looking forward to seeing your company grow and your own personal development. If there's anything I can do to help, I would love to. You know that the mission is extremely important to me. So thanks for being on the show, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.